Right, in this video we're looking at rational or also known as fractional indices. So basically these are bases where your power is a fraction, and these relate to the square root of a number or the root of a number, because a square root, you can have a cube root or fourth root, fifth root, and so on. Now these are probably the harder it's the hardest index law to actually understand, because you need to know your numbers quite well, basically. So even though we've got the key ideas here, you really need to be working through a lot of questions and understanding what is happening with the fractional index. Okay, so you can pop these into your bound reference, but also put in a lot of examples, okay? I'm going to make that smaller because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, so I'm going to do not every question because there are quite a few questions, but I'll try to do as many as I can. Move you? No, I can't. Okay. So the first, actually I might make it just slightly bigger. Okay. Just because I know it's hard to see the powers. Okay, so the first one, we've just got the square root of 29. Now, if there's no number written here, it is the number 2. Okay, so basically you're saying to work out the square root of 29, what number multiplied by itself gives you 29, which is not what we have to do here. We only have to write them in index form. So instead of writing the square root of 29, we write it as a fractional index. So it's 1 over whatever this power is, and whatever this number is, and it's 2. So it's 29 to the power of a half is the same as the square root of 29. So the square root sign is the same as saying to the power of a half. Okay, so let's have a look at another one. So B. So we don't worry about the number inside. We can just rewrite that. We don't have to work out what the cubed root of 35 is. We just have to say it's 35 to the power of 1 over 3. This one here, we're taking the fifth root. So this is slightly harder. So we still write whatever is in this under the root sign. And because there's a power here, you have to put it in brackets. Otherwise, you're going to get maybe a little bit confused. Okay, so then the 5 becomes 1/5. Now you'll know from your index laws that when you have a power to a power, we multiply them. So it's x to the power of 2/5. So if you do these steps slowly, you won't make a mistake, because even though it looks a little bit complicated, it's not as complicated as it seems. Okay, so let's do the next one. So the b cubed, let's put that in brackets. Okay, so whatever is under the square root sign, if it's got a power, put it with brackets, or if it's here we've got a coefficient and a prime numeral, put it in brackets as well. Okay, so here we've got b cubed, and then it's a fourth root, so it's to the power of a quarter. And that becomes base is b, and then we multiply these powers, so it's 3 times a quarter, which gives you 3/4. All right, the next one is just square root, so there's 2. Again, put the 2a in the bracket, and it's to the power of a half. Okay, so you need to write it like that. You can leave it like that. I wouldn't write 2 to the power of a half and a to the power of a half. It's fine leaving it like that. Just make sure, and I'm going to do here, this is wrong if you wrote 2a to the power of a half, because you're basically telling me that only the a is to the power of a half, but in fact the 2a is all to the power of a half. So we have 2 to the power of a half and a to the power of a half. So you can separate them like that or leave it as the brackets. Okay, F. I'm going to run out of room. So what have we got? 4t7. Again, put it in brackets to the power of a third. Now everything inside gets taken to the third, so it's 4 to the power of a third. And t power of 7 on 3, 7/3, and you just leave it like that. All right, let's keep going because I've done most of them anyway. Oh, there's that bird. There's a bird outside my window. I was trying to see what sort of bird it was. It was actually quite pretty before. It's very loud. Okay, so whatever is under the square, under the root sign, 10t squared, and then to the power of a fifth, 1/5. So then it's 10. It's very loud. Can you hear it? 10 to the power of 1/5 t, and then we multiply those t to the power of 2/5. And then the last question, again, write the whatever is under the root sign, and it's to the power of 1/8. So it's 8 to the power of 1/8. And then m, 4 times 1/8 is 4/8, and well, that can be simplified if you want to be m to the power of 1/2. Okay. Now, if you want to check, there's also work solutions, which you probably already know by now. Oh, there's a few solutions. So you can see the steps involved there. Okay, so sometimes you get just the answer, but sometimes you get a few solutions. Okay, so question 2. We've got to write these in index form. So this time we have a number at the front of the root sign. So we just write that number basically and only apply that. Let me just write that bigger. I'm a big fan of brackets. I kind of like to think of them as hugs. Big fan of hugs. Okay, so whatever is under the root sign, write it in brackets. And then it's to the power of 1/2. So then we have 7x, multiply your powers. So it's 5 on 2. Okay. So if you can do the next few, okay, have a pause and see how you go, even if you just play it after each one. Okay, so the 6, put in brackets, and to the 7, power of a third. I should put this on here. 6 and 7/3. Okay, this one we've got 3, put in brackets, y to the power of 12/4. 3y, 12/4. And you should know that simplifies to 3. So 12 divided by 4 gives you 3. All right. 5, in brackets, p squared r power of cubed, power of 1/3, sorry. I'm getting distracted by the bird. Okay, so p squared, so that becomes 2/3. And then r to 1/3. Okay, bring that 2, we've got a 4, b 2, power of a third. 2a 4/3, b 2/3. Do I need to keep going? I mean, surely you would be able to, let's skip, yeah, let's just skip F. I'm going to do G. You can check your answer for F below because you can see these are going to be a little bit different. Okay, so this one's 5. You can always put this in brackets if you want. To the 1/2. Okay, so basically we've got the same base here. So if you think about this, this is the same as saying, all right, this is 5 times 5 power of 1/2. And this power here is 1. So what do we do when we multiply? We have to go back to index law, I think number 1, and we add our powers. So this is 1 plus 1.5. And I'm just going to write it as a fraction, it's 3/2. This one here is exactly the same. 7 times 7 to the power of 1/2. Add them together, you get 7/3/2, which is 1.5. Or if you wanted to write it as 1.5, you can, but in maths we kind of leave fractions as improper fractions as opposed to mixed number when you're dealing with powers. Okay, and then the last one, what do we have? We've got 4 times 4 to the power of 1/3, which gives you 4 to the power of 4/3. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this time we're taking the fractional index to put it into a third. Okay, so if you can kind of see what was happening there. So we're going to take this number in the denominator, okay, and that is going to be our root. So this one's the 5th root of 2. This is the 7th root of 8, 3rd root of the cube root of 6, 10th root of 11. Okay, so E to H, they're slightly different, okay, because we've got that 1 there. I always like to separate these. So this one can be written as whatever the numerator is, so in this case it's 2, so we can write that as 3 squared to a third, and that becomes 3 over 3 squared. So do you see what I've done there? So I've had to separate this fraction to the 2 and the third. So when we multiply them, I still get 2/3. But this just enables me to see what root I'm taking. Okay, so I'm taking the cubed root of 3 squared, and 3 squared is 9. So we can write it like that as well. All right, here we have 7 2/3. So again, we separate it. So 7 squared to a third. Okay, so the numerator here and the rest, the denominator, or the rest of the fraction here. So that's cubed root again of 7 squared, and 7 squared is 49. Looking at G now. So we've got 2. The numerator is 3, then power outside is 1/5, so that gives us the 5th root of 2 cubed, and 2 cubed is 8, so the 5th root of 8. And then lastly H, we have 3 to the power of 4 to the power of 1/7, so we have the 7th root of 3 to the power of 4, and the 7th root, 3 to the power of 4 is 81. All right, quite tricky, those questions, but again, you just need to take your time and follow the steps, okay, because rational indices are very tricky. All right, and lastly, question 4. So we have to evaluate without using a calculator. Okay, so let's just write them as thirds first, because I find thirds easier. Okay, so this one's the square root of 36. So basically you're asking what number when multiplied by itself gives you 36. It's 6. Okay, now we're taking the cubed root of 27. So we're basically asking what number multiplied by itself 3 times this time. 3 times gives you 27. I know it's 3, so 3 times 3 times 3 gives you 27. Cubed root of 64. All right, so what number multiplied by itself gives you 64? Well, multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 64. And it's 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 4 is 64. What have we got now? Square root of 49. 7. The 4th root of 16 is 2. It looks difficult, but when you think about the number 16, you're saying what number multiplied by itself 4 times gives me 16? It's got to be a pretty small number. Okay, so even if you, like I said earlier, I don't know whether it was in this video or another video, where it's a good idea to actually write down your powers and what the numbers are. Okay, so here we've got the cubed root of 125, and all these ones you should know without the use of your calculator. So what number multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 125? It's 5. 9 to the power of a half. Okay, so if you, we know this is 1 over 9 to the power of a half, which is 1 over the square root of 9, that's been equal, which is 1/3. Okay, so here we've got negative indices. I'm going to go over here. So here's question H. 32, so 1 over 32 to the power of 1/5. So it's 1 over the 5th root of 32, which is 2. So it's a half. It's amazing. Who would have thought that was a half? Okay, 81. So we're doing question I now. 81 to the negative quarter. Okay, so that's 81 over 81. Oh my gosh. It's to a quarter. So the 4th root of 81. Okay, so the 4th root of 81 is 3. So 3 times 3 times 3 gives you 81. And then lastly, J. Okay, so we've got 1 over 1,000 power of a third, 1 over the cubed root of 1,000. What number multiplied by itself 3 times gives you 1,000? When you think about it, 10 will be the only number. Okay. Now, these are difficult questions. Okay, so if you need to go through them again, please do. But also remember that there's solutions that are included